Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 505. Meeple Nation, December 2023 news.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
The Meeple Nation podcast is sponsored by Game Toppers, LLC. You've heard us talk about them. We will always talk about them because we love them that much. Convert any surface into an epic gaming space by picking up a game topper. They've got toppers of all sizes to fit any table, beautiful mats to put on them, and accessories to go with them. So convert any space, or if you just need a full gaming table solution, pick up leg kits and dining leaf covers. You got yourself a fully functioning table with a recessed gaming surface inside. We love game toppers. We use them all the time. We record on them. We play on them. We would probably sleep on them if it was economical and comfortable, but we are not Berkey.
No.
You know, it has to pass the Berkey weight test, and there is photographic evidence of Berkey laying on the toppers. I'm not quite to that point.
You know, I'm just, as you mentioned that, I'm just looking, is this Watson, extra long Watson here, 8 feet long, 36 inches wide. You could easily put a twin mattress in.
That's what I'm thinking, actually. It's kind of got my wheels turning.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't ever considered that you could make this a full-fledged bed.
That's how I'm going to sell it to my wife.
There you go.
Like, we need to pick up a game topper so that we'll have a guest bed.
Absolutely. Only one person. Unless we get 2 Watsons, and then it's like the Mycroft, you're going to have a little bit of a gap in between. But I don't know. You can still make it work.
I think you could make it work.
Absolutely.
And it would support the weight.
Yeah.
Military grade aluminum. Fantastic product. Please go check them out. GameToppersLLC.com.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
And I am Douglas Stewart.
And no, Doug and Andy are not fighting.
Zigging and zagging.
Yeah. One's gone and the other's here. One's work, one's sick, but...
Yep, I've been on vacation. Andy's had work and birthday. He was at BGG Con, which I'm super jealous about. Then I got sick for a while. You can still kind of hear it in my voice. I'm still kind of getting over it, but I'm feeling a lot better, so that's good. But yeah, we've been hit and miss, but it's just Nathan and I here tonight.
We have a website, meeplenation.com. There you will find a treasure trove of goodness. You will find access to every single episode that we've released. If you're curious, go check them out. We have blogs. We have links to our social media, pictures. We have bios, and we have email address that you can email us at. We love to hear from our listeners, and we love to communicate and to bounce some ideas off and get some insight from you. Email us at meeplenation@gmail.com. And also on our website, you will find a link for our Patreon page. We love our patrons. We appreciate them so much. With the changes that we're making, that we're coming up, we're going in untested waters for us, and so it's a steep learning curve for some of these changes. But we also had the opportunity to do some bonus episodes, and we have some opportunities coming up to record some more. And we're hoping to release some bonus content on a regular basis, and just to provide some further entertainment to all of you. To our patrons, we say thank you, and we are so grateful for their support. And if you too would love to support the podcast, go over to meeplenation.com, click on that Patreon link, and become a patron of Meeple Nation.
Well, it's once again that time of the week where we get to discuss what we've been playing.
Favorite time.
Absolutely. So we want to talk about some of our gaming highlights. I'm pretty excited. Okay, so I had absolutely no idea this was coming. This was one that completely skipped my radar. Like, I did not catch a blip on the radar that this was coming down the pipe. I've talked about this before. Trails of Tucana is one of my favorite roll and write. It's a flip and write game. You flip over cards and you build trails on a map, and you're trying to connect all these little idols back to huts. And it's got some really unique, cool scoring, and it plays in rounds. And it's one that hits all the time. So the other week, I was surfing through a page and I saw that there was a new game called Tucana Builders, which is kind of the sequel to Trails of Tucana. And I was super excited. I picked up a copy of it and immediately learned the rules and sat my family down for a game because it's one that they really like to play. Tucana Builders, rather than being something that you write on, it doesn't have sheets that you write on. Everyone sets up their board with tiles. And so there's some random elements that are going to go into setting up everybody's board. You're going to set out these huts and you're going to set out some beginning trails. And then you're going to flip over a card. Everybody's going to grab from this big pile of tiles out in the middle, and everyone has to place their tile on one of the terrain types that matches the card that was flipped over. So what you're trying to do, every tile is going to have a trail and it's going to have one or multiple animals on it. And so you play your tile out on the terrain that's indicated, and you're trying to, kind of in the same way that the roll and write or the flip and write game works, you're trying to build trails that will connect all of your animals back to the huts, back to the villages. And you play in 2 rounds. So everything that you can get done in the first round is going to score twice. It scores for the first round, and then it scores again in the second round. We really had a good time with this. This is a great game. I like that it kind of deviates away from having the limited supply of sheets, because I think I've already gone through like 3 reams of the Trails of Tucana paper. And so I like this in that I don't have to keep buying pads of paper for it. I'm to the point where I just am going to go through and laminate a bunch of them. But,
I have a laminator.
Yeah. Well, so do I, and that's kind of what you have to do. So I like that aspect of it. It still gives you some of that fun trail building goodness that the original does. Something about the limitation of, okay, so if you can picture a hex tile, the road that goes through that tile is going to be different depending on what you draw. So there's a few special road tiles that kind of connect in different directions. And then most of them have one trail that goes through, but it's not a straight line through. Some are a straight line. Some may curve, right? So it goes from one hex, it starts on one line, edge of the hex, and then skips one and goes to the next. Some make a loop, so it kind of goes in and out. So that you have all these different trail options, but honestly, getting those to work with the terrain type that you draw is really challenging, and like more so than I thought it was. This is a lightweight game, so it's not like this is a hard game to play, but if you want to be efficient, if you really want to get all of those animals and, connected back to the huts and create like an efficient trail system, it is not as easy as it looks. So I really enjoyed it for that reason. It was a little bit more limiting than Trails of Tucana was. Trails of Tucana, I think, it has enough of those hexes, and especially when you're playing on the big side of that map, you flip your tiles over, you've got a lot of options in front of you on how you want to try to custom build your trail. With this, it's a little more tight, and it felt just a little bit more restrictive. I think the general consensus, so when we played this, I played it with my wife and all my kids. Well, one didn't play. This will play 5 players. So there were 5 of us.
One kid had to sit in the corner.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, it was autumn. She didn't want to play. She was doing other things. But anyway, so 5 of us sat down and played this game. We all love trails, and we all had a good time playing this one. I think the general consensus is we still like trails just a little bit more. However, it was one we all said, we want to play this again soon and see, now that we've kind of learned how to play the game, if we can be a little more efficient about building those trails out. So if you like Trails of Tucana, first of all, if you haven't played Trails of Tucana, go check it out. It's a fantastic game. It's a little hard to find in print right now, but if you can get your hands on it, check it out, especially if you like the roll and write, flip and write style games. And so if you haven't played it, go check that out. If you have played it, I think you will really enjoy Tucana Builders. It's a great sequel, relatively inexpensive, awesome little filler game. Even at a full player count, we were not at it for more than about 45 minutes, and that was including the teach. So not a long game, and really created, I think, a fun puzzle. It's one that'll stay on the shelf. I thought it was really good. So
could you actually go ahead and repeat all that? Because as soon as I saw Tucana in your notes, I stopped listening to find somewhere where I could order it. So could you just go ahead and repeat all that over again?
Well, I'll tell you what, you can go back and listen to all that later.
That's a good idea. I wonder if I can find this episode on meeplenation.com.
I bet you can.
I bet I can too.
At a future date.
A new game that I got the opportunity to play is a game I've sat down with my wife. So it's a little bit of a lighter game, easier game. And this is a game that's called Just Desserts. And that's what it is. It's a game. It's a little bit older game. I think it was 2018.
15 is what I'm seeing here.
2015.
Yep.
That makes sense. And it's a very simple game where you have a stack of guests and you have a stack of desserts. And the desserts all have specific ingredients. Some of them have chocolate, nuts, vegetables, fruits, ice cream, pies, pastries. And then you have guests that come in, and these guests have a favorite treat. And then if you don't have their favorite treat, then you have you can try to give them a combination of treats that will meet their cravings or meet what they their desire.
Oh, it's interesting. I'm looking at some of the cards. So they actually have like one guy here wants peanuts and chocolate, but he does not want something that looks like a cylinder, but it's crossed out.
Yeah.
So they have some ingredients that they don't want.
Right. Yeah. So like it could be they don't want spices, they don't want vegetables, they don't want chocolate, they don't want ice cream. So it's a wide variety of things that they don't want and things they do want. If you have their exact desire, so say somebody wanted the Boston cream pie, if you had the Boston cream pie, that's easy. You satisfy that guest with a single card, and then you can go on. On each turn, you can satisfy up to 2 guests with as many dessert cards that you have in your hand. Also, if you don't want to or you cannot satisfy any of the guests, you have the option of you can drop your tray, which is you can discard as many of your dessert cards as you want, draw that many new cards, your turn ends, or you can just end your turn, go back to the kitchen, and just draw a new dessert so that you have in your hand, you have a wide variety of dessert cards. So the goal of the game is the guests come in, I want to say 6 different suits, and you will win the game if you have satisfied a guest from 5 of the 6 suits, or if you satisfy 3 guests of the same suit.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a really simple game, pretty quick. And that's all it is at the start of your turn, you're going to reveal a guest, add it to the guest lineup, and then you're going to draw a dessert. You're going to check to see if you can meet the needs of any of the guests. If you can, great. You give them a dessert, send them on their way, put them in your score pile. And then it has a couple of variants where you can put a little bit more of a take that. You can poach your opponent's guests. So if you took the guest that really wanted the Boston cream pie and I later have the Boston cream pie, I can poach that guest from your score pile and bring them on over to me.
How rude.
It is kind of rude. So that's kind of element that I don't play with my wife. We stick to the very basic vanilla. Everybody's happy.
I think that's wise.
Yeah. I don't play that games with my wife.
Don't poach my guests.
Yeah. It tends to linger past the game. But a very simple game, very fun, and I have enjoyed my several plays of it. It does have a BGA implementation too that it works okay. Very fun game, very light, very easy, just desserts, a great quick filler game. Great game for me and my wife.
Awesome. No, that's great. I'd love to try that. Looks like a pretty fun little filler game. How long was that? How long does it take to play that?
15 minutes, 15 to 20, 25 minutes of the 25 minutes is way pushing it. Yeah, it's...
Love that. Yeah. No, good little filler games are awesome. Oftentimes, especially with the game nights that we have, you've got to have some of those fillers just to keep a few people busy until the main game can start, or when you've got multiple play, or people who can only stay for a certain amount of time or whatever. Those little games like that I think are awesome. So that's great. Yeah. I'd like to try that sometime.
2 to 5 players. I've actually only played it with 2 players, so I don't know how it plays with more, but I would love to give that a shot.
Fantastic. Well, we would like to stick to something that has become almost a regular segment on our podcast.
It has.
We love Salvatore. Salvatore, seriously, thank you for all of your questions. Salvatore's become like a super fan. I don't know if that's can we say that? Is that fair?
We should make him a badge.
Yeah, we need to send him a cake or something. But we have a lot of really interesting conversation with him, through meeplenation@gmail.com. So if any of you would like to participate in conversation or send us questions, we would love that. We'd love to interact with listeners of the show. But Salvatore keeps sending us in these questions, and some of them we just kind of talk to him about kind of in the background, but every now and then he sends us these questions, and we do feel like they kind of, they're worth spending some time talking about because they're really good questions. So our sort of question of the week, I don't know if we're quite ready to call it the question of the week from Salvatore segment, but this is for right now, this is the question of the week from Salvatore. He says, my question to Meeple Nation this week is about ethical dilemmas in content creation, and if you have had any professional or anecdotal experiences with those quandaries. As board game consumers and enthusiasts, the more inquisitive and informed among us usually have nagging questions in our minds regarding unbiased reviews, quote unquote, unbiased reviews. Or content creators pitching products. The idea that content creators are often just shills for board game companies or groupies for board game designers is a too simplistic and cynical worldview. The truth usually lies somewhere in between, which I totally agree with.
Absolutely.
100%. The content creation that we voraciously consume costs money to produce. Unless a content creator is independently wealthy, they will have to pay for the production through Patreon subscribers, YouTube views, advertising, or paid and hopefully disclosed first looks playthroughs contracted from board game companies. Also very true. If these companies are not disclosing that they have been paid to advertise for something, that really bothers me. I think most of them do. Board games in general have a very thin profit margin, and the vast majority of game designers have other jobs, and I know the same is true for content creators. Also very true.
Yes.
We often see curious occurrences, such as a new game from a major company having almost no published reviews from major content creators for months after initial release, and when reviews are belatedly published. They are a mediocre 6 or 7 out of 10. See Marvel Dagger. The most suspicious among us may think that the content creator was sitting on a potentially negative review, so the board game companies could sell as many copies as possible before BGG has enough reviews to publish a rating number, or other content creators disseminate a substandard review. I personally have more empathy for professional content creators because they are also trying to feed their families and pay for their children's college through this endeavor, and making ethical choices are far more complicated for them than semi-pro content creators that may give biased reviews or pitch questionable products to get free review copies and free swag. I could go on with scenarios, but what I'm asking you is if you have had any experiences or stories to share regarding this 3,000-pound elephant in the room that we rarely discuss. Salvatore.
So there's so many key points right there.
Yeah,
first
for
off,
sure.
there is the profit margin for board games is very small.
Yep.
And so when a publisher distributes a game, it costs them quite a bit of money to do paid reviews. And so a lot of the times when we get solicited for reviews, first off, we're pretty self-sufficient with our gaming supplies. Very, very few of the games that we get are sponsored games. And I actually wouldn't even say they're sponsored. Anytime anybody says, hey, would you guys do a review of this game? Our response is always, you can send us the game. If we like it, we'll talk about it. If we don't like it, we're not going to talk about it.
Which is a little bit more of a Meeple Nation personal preference kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
We've had this conversation many times, but I think just in general, we like to talk about things that we like.
Yeah, we like to be positive.
Right. And so, we're not too interested in doing something negative. So if we get a game and we don't really like it, it isn't that we're not necessarily trying to protect their feelings. It just isn't that interesting to talk about. It doesn't mean we don't have negative things to say. We do talk negatively from time to time, but we want that to be a little bit more of an organic thing that happens.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to put ourselves in a position where somebody sent us a game and we really hated it and then we have to give it a bad review, because we also feel very strongly that we shouldn't lie to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We wouldn't want to just make something up.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you, I think the closest that we've gotten to sort of that line being blurry, and I noticed my own bias kind of coming through just a little bit, was that box. Remind me who the publisher was. Was it Arcane Wonders who sent us the box with Furnace and
Arcane Wonders? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So Arcane Wonders sent us a box. It had Furnace with the expansion. It had Neotopia, and it had, was it Rolling? No, it was the Dice Manor.
Dice Manor. Yeah. And there was one more.
Neotopia. That was it was the 3 games. So there was Furnace with the expansion. So it had so there's 2 boxes for that. And then Neotopia and Dice Manor. We played those. Now, fortunately, we sat down and we played those. First of all, Furnace was legitimately a fantastic game. So it was great because it was like, okay, I don't need to pretend like I'm giving this false praise. I love Furnace. Furnace sees gameplay regularly, and the expansion, Interbellum, was really fantastic. Yeah. In fact, we took that to our Hug a Meeple event this year, one of our Hug a Meeple events, and it was a huge hit. We played it a number of times, and people really enjoyed that game. Neotopia was one that I was, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, great. I did not think I was going to like it, and then I was really pleasantly surprised. Yeah, I love Neotopia.
Yeah, it's one my wife really likes.
Yeah, so legitimately really, really liked it. Now, where the real struggle came in for me was with Dice Manor, simply because when we played it, we had a player, Greg, who was not playing correctly, and it allowed him to really hose me on a couple of plays, like really, really bad, like set me way behind. And so, and then coming to find out he was able to do that only because he was playing some of the tiles wrong. Anyway, my experience was a little bit negative with that, but it was because we had a player not playing the game right, not because it was a design flaw of the game. And so I did feel a little bit of pressure to kind of just shut up.
Right.
You know, and that I think for me is the closest I've gotten to having any kind of like conflict when it comes to somebody sending us a game and talking about that game, was sort of like, well, my experience was, I did have this negative experience, but it was because of a player not playing things right, not necessarily because of the game, but I was worried about people hearing me talk negatively about it and, you know, sort of transposing that onto the quality of the game. And so, you know, I think it's a real thing. It's a real phenomenon.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to not allow our personal biases into games. I mean, we talk Terraforming Mars is ever brought up. I mean, Andy's bias against Terraforming Mars is, you know, stings like a knife, right? It just, there is some barriers that some of us have, each of us have, that just block out certain games. And I mean, I look at the experience also at Hug a MeepleCon that you had with
Mind management.
Yeah.
Yep.
And both you and Monique had a really negative experience because of my lack of preparation for that game. I'd played it the one time and I thought, oh, I can just go from memory and do it again. And I couldn't. And so it was really a sour experience. And given the opportunity to play it again, both you and Monique were like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I ended up playing it with Julie and Sarah, and we had a blast.
Right.
We have those barriers that we hit.
Right. And we've talked about that. We talked about Andy with Terraforming Mars. I've had that experience with Folklore, which I think is technically a good game. The experience that I had with it just soured it for me. I don't have a lot of interest in playing it anymore.
Yeah. I have games like Merchants of the Dark Road, just some games that are excellent games, but because of a negative experience, that taints a game. So as that result, I mean, if there's a game that we don't like, I mean, we just usually, instead of sitting there knocking the game or complaining about the game, we just would rather talk about something that we're more excited about.
Yeah. Now, I do like one of the things he talks about in here is how it almost seems like there's a delay for negative reviews. I don't know that this is really the content creators, the reviewers. I think this is the publisher. And I think when they send copies out, they have non-disclosure agreements that waylay people from talking about it. And I do think they do it on purpose. I know, and I'll name names. I think Simon is a company that does this from time to time, where they release something that is not as high quality as it should be, but they put non-disclosure agreements, and so people have to wait for a certain date in order to be able to talk about them. And it allows them to sell as many copies as possible before kind of the substandard reviews come out. Now, I am cynical enough to think that some of these companies do that on purpose, knowing that the game isn't going to be a smash hit, but they want to maximize the window for selling copies of the game, because especially if it's something like Marvel Dagger, if it has the Marvel name associated with it or something else that's going to make it sell a lot of copies.
That nerd tax that we talked about.
100%. If it's got nerd tax associated with it, they want to collect as much of that tax as they can before substandard reviews start coming out.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the content creators.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, and I bought Marvel Dagger, and yes, I bought it because it was Marvel and it had the theme. And it's actually a game that we haven't even busted out and played because it's still, it's been out for several months, still has a 7.3 on BGA. So still has overall a fairly high rating. But yeah, it's kind of its table presence is, I don't know. It's hard to play that game with standees when you're used to a lot of those games with miniatures. But I can't speak to the quality of the game since we haven't played it yet. But
Right. Well, and then there's a whole nother side tangent we could go down too, because oftentimes what happens is, if a company can waylay reviews from coming out by content creators, then, and Salvatore kind of mentions this, then BGA will their algorithm will collect sort of an amalgamation of reviews from various places. And then they have a way of sort of offsetting that. And so it'll give kind of a final score. But what happens is the people who have purchased the game, especially if it's like a bigger Kickstarter game or they've spent a significant amount of money on the game, there is a little bit of a end user bias.
For sure.
Where it's like, it's not that great of a game, but they they kind of want it to be, and they've spent so much money and have so much invested in it that there's almost this compulsion to falsely hype it up. And that's a whole other kind of side tangent conversation to have in conjunction with what happens with board game reviews. But yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I think you got to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. And my big thing, I love listening to podcasts. I love watching YouTube videos. I think there's some good content creators out there. The very best among them, though, are very clear about what their biases are, and they're very clear about what they've been paid to do or not to do.
Right.
And I think as long as that is, first and foremost as part of the conversation, I really don't have a problem with it, because we all have biases. And to pretend otherwise is you're just straight up lying. You're just kidding yourself.
Yeah.
Because we all do. So yeah, so good question, Salvatore. I don't know if we, came close to answering it or shedding any real light on it. I can honestly say from personal, the time that I've been involved with Meeple Nation, with the podcast, with doing reviews, with people sending us stuff, I can't really say that I've run into any big ethical dilemmas.
No, I haven't. I mean, and I always make that very clear when somebody sends us a game is, we'll look at it. If we like it, we'll talk about it. Right. If not, we won't.
Yep. And I get that there's maybe some people who are tempted because it's like, well, we could get some free stuff.
Absolutely.
If we prop this stuff up artificially, we could get a good relationship and they could send us some free stuff. But honestly, I think people can see through that really quick. And I don't know that content creators that do that kind of thing last very long. I don't think the free stuff is worth the price you pay in the long run, burning people with false reviews and false information. So,
and I think, and honestly, if we had depended on free stuff for the podcast, we would have fizzled a long
time ago. Yeah, 100%.
And that's kind of the nice thing about being self-sufficient, being independent, is the only person that we're accountable to is ourselves.
Yep.
And we find those corrections and make those corrections as we go. And yeah, I mean, we have had to make corrections and we've had to make adjustments, but we go on and hopefully we get better. And that's why I always say, when you go back to those early episodes, there's always a disclaimer.
Take them with a grain.
Yes. Some of them with a big grain.
Oh boy. Well, it's just a testament to the fact that we are making progress and getting better as time goes on. We hope.
Yeah. It's the news episode, so let's talk about some new games. Should we talk about releases or announcements first? What do you feel, Doug?
Let's talk about new games that are hitting the shelf right now before we talk about announcements.
All right, new releases.
Yeah, you've got a lot more by way of new stuff to talk about. I only had a couple. Hit us with something new.
So there's a new game called Trailblazers: The John Muir Trail. This is a 1 to 4 player game, 30 to 120 minutes, 2.8 on the weight. In the game, you're going to discover and explore the John Muir Trail in the high Sierras of California. Gameplay is played over 12 days, where you will have daily encounters. You will choose which areas you're going to explore, and you have to manage all your personal resources, your gear, and then you always have to adapt to ever-changing weather conditions, and all in order to move along the trail. I've decided I kind of like these trekking the national park, trekking the world, trails type games.
I was just going to say, because I'm looking at pictures here, and this looks like almost a blend between like parks and trekking the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's very tough to have something original and unique in the board gaming hobby. And so I do enjoy when these games will bring mechanics or bits and pieces from other games and meld them together in a new way, and in a way that's pleasing and attractive to maybe not your heavier gamers. So this is a game I foresee playing with my wife, and one that I think she'll enjoy. Although if this game lasts 120 minutes, it'll be the last time she plays it.
I wonder if it's like 30 minutes per player or something like that.
And if it's like that,
30 to 120 is a big spread.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's like that, that's great. I can play that with my wife in an hour. Great.
No problem.
Yeah. So for this reason alone, just the appeal and all those combination of little pluses makes it a game that's going to hit my shelf.
Yeah. These images look really good. I'm particularly impressed with the little backpack. So it looks like you've got a board that you're building stuff out on, and it's got your hiking bag there.
Yeah. And
then it's got this sort of a grid, like a hex grid overlay, where you can put little tiles to like the stuff that's going into your backpack. So, and on this one image, I'm seeing like binoculars and a first aid kit, a Swiss Army knife, a journal, a camera. So, and then I'm sure all of those things, they look like they can be used. I'm seeing matching icons and stuff down on some of the cards and everything. This actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it takes that game of Trails, amps it up a little bit, and provides some complexity, but yet still has the feel. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good game.
Love it. Trailblazer, the John Muir Trail. Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that one out. That's way awesome. So one that is just out that I had some interest in that I heard about, I can't remember what podcast they were talking about this on, but I heard about this. This is a game called Ancient Knowledge, and this is being put out by Yellow Games. And the synopsis reads, it says, Ancient Knowledge is a strategic card game in which you erect monuments and build artifacts to pass on your knowledge. Time will make your constructions ephemeral, so make the right decision and combine the many cards at your disposal because all knowledge is doomed to disappear. So the idea here is you're kind of building out, it looks like a tableau that has cards that sort of represent your present and your past. And you're trying to preserve certain pieces of knowledge before they kind of go the way of the dodo. And you get to score based on what knowledge you preserve over time based on the cards that you've built out into your past and present. So I really like this conceptually. We'll see if it plays well. I've got this on order. And so I'm looking forward to talking about it in the future. This looks like a really fun one. Little tableau building card game.
Yeah, this is one that it looks kind of cool. If you got it, I don't think I'm going to get it because I think it's a little too much for my wife, but I don't know. Maybe she would like it.
Well, don't make promises you can't keep.
Yeah, yes, you're so true.
It's got also like really fantastic looking art and multi-use cards that always really excite me.
Yeah, it does look really good. So there's a new Uwe Rosenberg game that, I always enjoy Uwe Rosenberg games. I love them because most often times they are tile placement games and tile placement games with a twist, right? A complexity. It's not just I'm putting a tile down. There are levels of complexity that go with it. This one plays 30 to 60 minutes, 1.92, so not super heavy. In the game, a wide orchard lies in front of Applejack's cottage. Help him and his daughter plant apple trees and harvest the juicy apples. But don't forget to set up the beehives between the trees, because at the end of the game, whoever has the most honey wins. My wife's favorite game is Patchwork, another Uwe Rosenberg game that is just very simple, but I'm terrible at. And
I love Patchwork.
She very much enjoys that she is so much better at it than I am. And I'm happy for her, and I enjoy playing it, and it's great to play with her. So this is a game that I've picked up, and I'm anxious to teach her and to get her input and get her feel on this. For me, it's like almost an instant buy.
Just because of Uwe Rosenberg, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep, looking forward to that. Applejack. This does have a BGA implementation. I haven't tried it, but it's out there.
Very cool. Yeah, I like that. I've had my eye on this one for a while, so I'm excited you picked up a copy. We'll look forward to playing that. That'll be cool. All right. Well, the other one that I wanted to just mention, a little game called Apiary is out. This is the latest title from Stonemaier Games, which I think always turns heads. I think Stonemaier, their level of production and quality when it comes to games is, I think, higher. It's definitely above average. And so anytime that Jamie makes an announcement, I think people tend to listen up and pay attention. This Apiary game looks pretty cool. So it kind of takes on, we're seeing more and more of this themed of game where basically humanity has failed. Something has happened to us. We've all died. We didn't take care of the planet, or we messed up, or we blew each other up or something. But basically this animal life on Earth has taken over and evolved. We kind of see this with After Us and a few other games that are coming up. But in Apiary, it's the bees that have taken over and have advanced so far technologically that they have begun to engage in space travel. And so they are now out among the stars, spacefaring bees. So basically, in this game, you're going to be given a hive. Now, it says that there are 20 unique factions.
Oh, wow.
Which makes me really excited. I love asymmetric factions. And so if they've got 20 and they all play relatively uniquely and have different strategies, that is something that makes me super excited because you get a lot of replayability and a lot to explore when it comes to that kind of thing. But basically, you've got these factions. You're given a hive and some worker bees. You're going to go out and basically you're exploring planets and you're collecting resources and trying to develop new technologies. And it's kind of a race to see who can build the best spacefaring bee hive.
That does look pretty cool. I always dislike these news episodes because without fail, Something always ends up in my shopping cart.
Is this one going in your shopping cart, Nathan?
I don't know. It looks pretty cool.
It does look pretty good. I actually, I had the last copy in my cart from, I think it was Miniature Market earlier today. And while I was looking at a couple of the games that I wanted to play, it sold and I was not able to order it. So yeah, so I've got to get my hands on a copy of Apiary, but I'm looking forward to it. It looks pretty good.
One last one that I want to talk about, new current game out and about. And this game is called Floating Floors. So it's a 2 to 4 player game where players compete to complete ninja missions by crossing floor cards that are balanced above the board. So I have this love-hate relationship with dexterity games. I love them because I think they're fun, they're exciting, they get you involved. There's a lot of emotion of, ooh, yeah.
And you always think in the back of your head, like, I might be really good at this.
Yeah. And I'm not.
And that's
never where the hate part comes from, because I am terrible at these dexterity games. But the idea of this, I think, is great. You have your cards that represent the floors, and they're balanced between a couple of pieces of little wood cubes. And as you're moving your ninjas across, you have to try to balance your cards and balance your ninjas on the cards so that the floor doesn't fall. And if you're the first to get your ninja across, then it's great. You've won. Just the theme and the whole presence and the idea of this game, it's got me sold. And so I'm very much looking forward to Floating Floors, my ninja mission labyrinth crossing dexterity. I'm going to lose this game terribly style game, but it's going to be on my shelf.
Well, if we play it together, maybe we'll be evenly matched.
Maybe. I doubt it.
No, you'd be surprised. Fantastic. Well, were there any other new games coming out that you wanted to talk about, or should we move on to new game announcements?
Let's just move on to some game announcements.
Okay, I love it, because I'm kind of excited about some of the stuff that hit the news in the last week or two.
Yeah, me too.
So I'll get us started here. One of the things that I'm looking forward to now. Okay, I want to talk about this for just a second, because it feels like every game out there that finds a foothold, that finds some success, it seems like the publisher immediately wants to crank out a roll and write or flip and write version of it.
Yes.
And I'm just going to be really honest with you. Most of them are just straight up garbage. There's a big roll and write push. They're pretty popular. They're cheaper to make. I think that there's some decent profit to be had in them if you've already got a successful title. For some reason, the board gaming community tends to snap these up and spend a lot of money on them. I think it's something that needs to stop because we're only going to see more and more and more sort of roll and write versions of popular games. And I don't think we should. It's a thing in the industry that I wish would slow down. I'm not saying stop, but just slow down a little bit. Okay.
I'm going to totally disagree.
Are you? Okay.
There are some great roll and write games out there. Like right off the top of my head, Lost Cities roll and write. That is a fantastic version of the game.
And I 100%, I agree that there are some very, very good ones.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that everyone is doing it. This is widespread. I'm going to make a board game, and if it is even moderately successful, I'm going to crank out a roll and write version of it as soon as possible. What I'm saying is the vast majority of them are garbage. There are some real gems to be found, but there's a lot of them that I think are really bad. Okay. All of that preamble to a couple of announcements. So Cascadia is a game that I think we both like. I like to play it with my wife. It's one of her favorite games. We just saw the release of the Cascadia expansion, Landmarks, I think, which I still haven't had a chance to play, but it's right there on the top of my pile. As soon as I can sit my wife down, we'll get that played. But okay, so this is Cascadia Rolling Hills and Cascadia Rolling Rivers. Now, all of the stuff that I just said, keeping in mind, I have really high hopes for these as successful roll and write games. The reason being that they are, they're not just cranking out one. It looks like they've given this some thought. So it's two individual products. So you've got Rolling Hills and Rolling Rivers, but they can be combined. So each one will play 1 to 4 players. You could combine them to play 1 to 8 players.
Oh, interesting.
Right. But each box has a unique central dice. So if you think about this is very much akin to what Railroad Inc. does.
Right. That's the first thing when you started to explain. That's what the first thing came to my mind.
So if you get the blue box, you've got the game, plus you've got the Rivers expansion. You buy, that orange box, and you've got the core game plus, I think it was like the sun or whatever that you can draw and create out there. And I really like that. Railroad Inc. I think is a fantastic game. And if they're following that pattern, I think this could be incredibly successful. So I was excited to see this, even though these types of games don't excite me overall very much. When I see a roll and write implementation of a game, I was excited to see these simply because it looks like they're putting the proper time and energy and thought into making them good, into making them unique and individual, and being able to roll them out in a way that's like, roll them out.
I see what you did there.
that makes sense, and I think will be a high quality gaming experience with an IP that I genuinely do like. I like Cascadia quite a bit.
Yeah, I think Cascadia is a great game. Like you mentioned, it's one that my wife enjoys. It almost is going to fall right in that same suit of like the trails, trekking the national parks, trekking the world. Very similar feel to it that is accessible to other players. It's kind of like some people in train games.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I can totally see that. So here's me with my fingers crossed, hoping that those are good games.
Yeah, I'm excited for them now. See, again, something else that hit the shopping cart.
Yeah.
So while we were preparing for this news, and actually wasn't even while we were preparing, I love spreadsheets.
Me too.
I have maybe a little crazy obsession with spreadsheets.
You're such a nerd.
I am. And as I was cataloging where all my games are in the game room, I've labeled all the shelves so that when I put a game, I know what shelf it's on. And when I can't find a game, I'm like, oh, what shelf is that on? I can look it up in my spreadsheet. So short story long, I was updating my spreadsheet with my Robo Rally new boards. I also like to put a link to BGG so that I can have that reference in there. And then I also carry a lot of that reference material over. Short story even longer, while I was updating this Robo Rally, I came across a new Robo Rally game that just instantly perked my ears.
Do tell.
And they said, hey, Nathan's a sucker. He's totally going to buy this game. Let's just put it out. And that's Transformers Robo Rally.
That's awesome.
I love this idea. There's six different Transformers. So I'm assuming you're going to have some Autobots, you're going to have some Decepticons, and using that whole Robo Rally theme where you're trying to get to the race. I'm sure they're going to throw a race to some Energon or whatever in there. This is a theme I think is just going to really work well with the whole Transformers theme. And for me, I mean, it's got me pretty excited. This is a 2024 release. The link on BGG doesn't even have a picture, has a very brief description, but Nerd Tax is coming because I'm buying that one no matter what.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, what a great pairing.
Yeah.
Robo Rally and Transformers. That makes sense.
I think it does. It goes together well. Along that same lines, there's which I just saw somebody else had ordered, but G.I. Joe Axis and Allies. And I thought that's a great combination too.
That is a great combo.
I'm not a big fan of Axis and Allies just because it usually is going to drag on way too long.
Right, but you have to think that they're going to integrate some more modern board game sensibilities into that.
I hope so.
And make it a little more fun. Because if it's just a reskinning of old Axis and Allies, even with G.I. Joe,
yeah,
that's probably going to be a pass for me.
Yeah. So now that I've mentioned that, I'm going to have to take a quick peek on BGG, see if there's anything on there of how that looks. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Transformers Robo Rally, though, coming soon to a game table near you in 2024.
Fantastic. Also coming next year, something that I'm pretty excited about. We've got more content for Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Did you see this announcement?
I did see this announcement, and I still haven't explored the stuff that I have in Heat.
Right.
And Heat is such a great game. It's so accessible and it has such a high player count. I'm not sure why we're not hitting this game way more than we are.
We need to be playing it more and more, especially with all the upgrade stuff and the tournament modes and everything else. We need to start busting those out. But this is Heat, Torrential Rain. So this is going to add 2 new maps. We can now race in Japan and Mexico. It's going to add a 7th player, which I was kind of glad to see that it's just adding 1 more player, because there's room in that box for them to go up to 8, which means this is definitely not going to be the only
expansion.
Yeah, this is not going to be the only expansion to hit the shelves. But we've got Japan and Mexico, a 7th player, and new improvement cards. So more Heat content, more maps, more players. This game is fantastic with higher player counts, and being able to add another player, I think, is really huge. Having new maps to explore is really huge. It's a great game to begin with. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I'm very much excited for this. Looking forward to it 100%.
Fantastic. What else you got for us?
So just a real quick one, Bonanza, classic game from, I believe it's year 2000, bean counting game, very unique where you have to draw. You can never reorganize the cards in your hand. You have to be able to trade and manipulate the cards in your hand that way. But Bonanza is having a re-implementation, but instead of beans, it is Bonanza
Dahlias.
Thank you. Bonanza Dahlias. So it's all about flowers. Just a quick re-implementation of a great game. So I think that'll be kind of fun.
Yeah. Plus, I like dahlias.
Indeed. Another one that I'm really interested in is this game called Evacuation. So the sun has grown too hot and the planet is burning up. So we must evacuate our current planet and try to move over to a new planet that has sustainable elements and resources. And, well, the sun's not too hot. When you're on your home planet, your economy's going, you're bustling or bustling?
Yes,
Either? Okay. You're bustling, you're doing well, but the end is coming, right? The end is nigh. The little guy on the street that's saying the end is near, it is near. So you have to try to manage your economy and also manage transitioning your economy to a new planet where you're trying to have a race for land, have a race for territories to take over, to be able to establish your resources, establish your economy on this new planet, all while not sacrificing the least amount you can on your home world economy. I think this whole balancing idea, this is kind of a pretty complex game. It has a weight of 3.99, so it's going to be kind of a heavier game. But the whole idea of this, trying to manage and balance both of these economies at the same time, I think this is going to be a great game. So I go from Bonanza Dahlias to a very heavy game of Evacuation, both very much different themes.
Yep. And this is, I don't know if you already mentioned, this is Vladimir Suchi. So prominent board game designer. And he does pretty good work. His stuff, I think, is well regarded. The only thing I've played that he has made is actually Underwater Cities.
Which is a great game.
So maybe I need to start playing some more Vladimir Suchi games. This does look pretty good. I like this. Very, very cool. Another announcement I was kind of excited to hear. I've expressed a lot of love for Unmatched over especially the last few months on the podcast. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but coming in 2024, we've got 2 new Witcher themed expansions, Steel and Silver and Realms Fall. I am not the biggest Witcher fan, but I love Unmatched, and I think that the Witcher character is fairly cool. And so, if this meets the typical Unmatched high quality, standard, then these will be fun expansions to add to the shelf. So I'm kind of excited about that. And if you do like The Witcher, then this is nothing but good news.
I see Unmatched being able to dip its toes into a wide variety of IPs and themes and stories that will blend in really well to the Unmatched universe.
Yeah, 100%. And then another announcement that I was pretty excited about. Nathan, how much have you played of Abyss? Have I taught you how to play that game? Have you played that?
As I was reading this, I was trying to actually recall if I have, because I don't think that I have. Okay,
so it's kind of an underwater civilization themed bidding style game that has some really cool like set collection and stuff going on. It has a couple of expansions that add quite a bit to the core experience. This is one that I have played a number of times over the years. It's a game that I really enjoy. I thoroughly enjoy the bidding and card collecting mechanism in particular in Abyss. Abyss is going to hit its 10th year anniversary next year. And so they have announced, now details are limited, but they have announced an anniversary edition of Abyss called Abyss the Universe. From what we can tell so far, this will have Abyss plus both of the expansions in one box. And then there have been teases at some new content coming as well. We don't have details, but it sounds like there could be a third expansion or at least some modules or other things that they'll be adding to that The Universe box. So I'm really excited about that. I love Abyss. I really do think it's a good game. It's another one of those that I wish got to the table more than it does, but maybe with this anniversary edition coming out, we'll get it played a little bit more.
Yeah. Now I went to BGG and looked it up. I definitely have played Abyss, but I haven't played it since it very first came out. So way back 2014.
10 years ago.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
Here's another one that has just the theme alone has perked my interest, and this is Virtual Revolution. So this reminds me a lot of the Netrunner series. So it's the year 2047. Most of humanity escapes reality through verses, virtual universes, which are developed by powerful mega corporations. These businesses are willing to do anything and everything to gain market shares. You work for one of them, and your mission in Virtual Revolution is to become the ruler of Neo Paris. Players have 3 actions. They're going to recruit agents, generate income, or build servers. Some of those servers can start new verses, or they can improve your reputation. And because not every action in Virtual Revolution is a legal action, you risk attracting Interpol, and you risk being caught by the man. How far are you willing to go to take over the city? Well, you can find out in Virtual Revolution. It also has the kind of the gritty Blade Runner feel to it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the images. It definitely has that feel to it for sure.
Yeah. 2 to 4 players, plays in 90 minutes. And this always makes me laugh that games, when they're putting their time frame, that it says, okay, this game takes 90 minutes. No more, no less. 90 minutes.
90 on the dot.
Yeah. So there's no arguing. It's a 90-minute game, and it's a big majority area influence game. And normally we would kind of just blow that off. That's not really our theme. But as we could discuss coming up, we have found out that we own and we play and we enjoy several area majority games.
Yeah, I'm not as averse to area majority as some of the other people here at Meeple Nation, but I will say a really great theme goes a long way to sort of softening the blow of the kind of take that elements that can come in an area majority style game. I found this to be true. Like looking at this, it actually kind of reminds me in some ways of Scarface 1920. Which also has some strong area majority type things, but the theme just comes oozing out of that in such a strong way that it makes sense. You really feel, that whole process of claiming your territory in downtown Chicago and defending it and doing all of your gangster activities. It feels really, really good. And this seems like the same kind of thing where the theme has been implemented so well that area majority thing is going to come through in spades. I think it looks really good.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty excited about this one.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. Okay. So I've got some really good news for people who are big fans of Foundations of Rome, but maybe didn't want to spend all the money on that big, expensive, heavy box full of amazing plastic and components and pieces and parts.
But it is amazing.
It is amazing. So what we are going to see coming up is not Foundations of Rome, but Foundations of Metropolis.
So Metropolis, does that mean it has a DC theme? Or is it a Metropolis as just in a metropolis in general?
Well, it's a metropolis in general. I wish that it was DC. And there have been a number of jokes related to when do we get to see Superman show up in the forums related to this game. However, this is just a big city kind of version of the game. But what's great is, so when they released Foundations of Rome, they made it very clear that it was going to be Kickstarter exclusive. Like it was going to be an exclusive game to Kickstarter. And they have kept to that promise. So this is a retheming so that they can still stick true to that promise that they made while re-implementing the game into a version that is much more condensed and affordable. So it's the same gameplay, but you're building out this city as opposed to ancient Rome. And you have, the same middle board, the same cards that come out, the same bidding mechanic, everything else. But then your board, instead of having this massive tray full of all these Roman buildings, is a much smaller tray. And on it, you've got like your more board gamey wooden pieces. Think maybe more along the lines of like Catan or some of these games where you've got like nice wooden pieces. It's still a high quality game, but you're not looking at, you know, a $200+ price tag for it at all. So this is a much more refined, sort of cut back version as far as production value goes of Foundations of Rome. I think this is going to make a lot of people really happy, because I do think that Foundations of Rome, there were definitely some limitations with with people being able to afford this or have space for it on the shelf, that kind of thing. And so being able to have that same great gameplay experience that's just in a normal sized box on the shelf is going to appeal to a lot of people.
And hopefully that means that I'll be more likely to find a used copy of Foundations of Rome in a game swap somewhere for much cheaper.
Very true. Actually, and it may push some of those onto the secondary market for less money. And that's awesome. I love Foundations of Rome. I don't know that I will ever trade Foundations of Rome for this Foundations of Metropolis, but I still think this is a really good move on their part to put this out and have this as an option.
All right. The last one I want to talk about is another lighter game. This is Agueda, the City of Umbrellas. So it's no secret that I do enjoy lighter games in my collections. I very much enjoy finding games that I can play with my wife, and games like this are going to hit my list for sure. It's 20 to 40 minutes, perfect time for her, very lightweight, 1.5. Every summer, the town of Agueda, Portugal transforms into a beautiful arts festival with colorful umbrellas hanging above the streets and decorated lampposts, murals, and other art installations around this quaint little city. In this game, players are going to draft tiles. They're going to add them to their player streets. They're going to attract tourists or two, and all in an effort to score some points. This is an easy game to play, but there's definitely a level of strategy with it. This game is 100% coming home with me in my shopping cart. One that's going to be on my list for sure. I have no doubt that my wife is going to very much enjoy this game.
Very cool. Yeah, it looks good. Colorful.
Yeah, very colorful, bright, and yeah, I think it's just a great game, and it's going to 1 to 5 players.
Those umbrellas really look pretty cool. This looks like it'll have a kind of a nice little tactile feel to it as well.
Yep, and the building does have the board has quite a bit going on, so it's a busy board, but so it does provide some complexity. But I think it's just going to be a very simple game, straightforward. Yeah. Love it.
Well, I'll make mention of just one more that caught my eye. This is actually very similar to the one you were talking about, evacuation, where Earth is going to fail. You've got to pull off of Earth and establish on a new planet. So this has kind of a similar idea behind it. This is called Machines to the Sky. And the idea here is that Earth is failing and we've got to get off, but you're going to basically be building an arc collectively while you've still got kind of your own personal tableau of projects and things that you're working on. So the idea is you're each representing a group or a faction or something like that is trying to gain influence over sort of the politics of the Ark, this massive machine that is going to take humanity off of Earth and out into space. And so the art, I think, is what kind of caught me. The concept is kind of what caught me. There's not a lot.
It's a very simple looking game.
Yeah. Not super complex, like as opposed to, Evacuation, the one you were talking about that has a 4 out of 5. This is sitting at a 2 out of 5 in terms of complexity. I'm also not familiar with the publisher. This is Moongirl, and under the designer, it just says Moongirl as well. So I don't know a lot about this, but the concept and idea really caught my eye. Machines to the Sky. So
and the artwork on the cover of the box
looks really good. Now, whether that artwork will come through in terms of, the rest of the components and the actual quality of the gameplay, who knows, but it definitely caught my eye. It says, in the end, your goal is to manage the development of groundbreaking technology so that you can earn the most space on the Ark and carry your name into the stars, the dying Earth fading behind you. So kind of a cool premise. Man, it seems like we're seeing a lot of these games where, I don't know, it's doom and gloom for the Earth. I guess we as a species are going to die.
I think it's inevitable anyways.
Yeah. So. I guess we're heading toward that. So
we haven't been the best caregivers or caretakers of the planet.
Yeah. It seems like other people are onto the same idea and concept there. Cause, either we're all going to die or we're going to escape a dying Earth.
Yeah. So you got some deck bag pool building elements, action deck construction, so it looks kind of like a little bit of a deck building mechanic in there.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I think this looks great.
So I've just kind of one I've got my eye on. It sort of caught my eye. We'll see if it's any good. When it comes out, kind of just watch it and keep my eye on it. But yeah, it definitely, and mostly that cover, right? Like that Machines to the Sky cover just looks really, really good.
I think maybe for the rest of this year, we should just do the news every 10 episodes so that I can recover more between each news episode.
Does your wallet need to recover a little bit more?
I have to do some CPR on that thing, I think.
Revive, little buddy. Revive. Oh, yeah. You're going to have to go get another job.
Yeah. Sell an organ or something.
All right. Well, that covers some new game announcements that we are excited about. I just had a couple of things that I was going to mention from crowdfunding. Did you have anything from crowdfunding that you had your eye on?
Nope. I tend to stay away from the crowdfunding until it's something that I'm really excited about. So nothing that is currently out is making me super excited, except for maybe what is third on your list.
Yeah, so I've got just a list. I'll go through these really rapid fire. First of all, if you go over to GameFound, a couple of projects that look kind of interesting. If you are a He-Man fan, we've got Masters of the Universe, the board game, that looks kind of interesting. So you can go over there and follow that project.
Is that a re-implementation of the first Masters of the Universe?
It is. So this is, it says right here in the description, it says back for a second print, including all exclusives and now shipping worldwide. Oh, okay. So this is technically one that has already been out, but if you're interested in that, and especially if you want those exclusives that came with the first one. So it's got like the Castle Grayskull and all of the like 3D terrain components and some of that kind of stuff. So if you missed out on that the first go around, you can now get back in on it, which is a big deal and kind of noteworthy because this is a CMON game. And so because they do all of their stupid Kickstarter exclusive stuff, which is a whole side tangent that we won't go down right now.
You nailed it with stupid.
Yeah. This is the window to get that stuff if you missed it the first time. So there's that. Also, one that caught my eye, and I'm just going to follow this and watch it. This is Guns of the Old West. I'm kind of a sucker for that sort of Wild West gunslinging kind of theme. I don't think we get enough good games that have that theme attached to them. This is touting over 100 campaign paths. So it looks like a really divergent path, kind of Wild West style game. So the idea here, again, not a lot of details yet, but more forthcoming. But the idea is there's like bank heists and train robbers and duels and all of that good sort of Wild West, stuff you'd see in cinema and other forms of media. That it's all going to come through in this board game in these really unique scenarios. It looks like these scenarios play fairly quick, which is something I like. But then you've also got sort of that campaign element and almost kind of dungeon crawly feel. So this is one that I think would really tickle Andy's fancy as well.
That's what I was just going to say. All you have to do is just say, hey, Andy, have you seen this? And then you can play it later.
That is 100% my plan. I'm hoping to get him on board with this. So, but you even just looking at the imagery, right? You've got really the old factory in the set in the hills. You've got the train heist with guys shooting at each other on the top, and there's a car exploding in the middle, and the horse is chasing it down. And then you've got the saloon. Some of the images show like the bank and some of those things. So it kind of has all the right vibes. I don't know if the gameplay will live up, but we will definitely see. This is one that definitely caught my eye. So then another one that caught my eye over on GameFound is the second edition printing of Last Light. So if you missed out on the first printing, you can now get in on the second printing. To be clear, this is the second edition. So it's not only a second printing, but it's also the second edition. So this will have like an upgrade kit for people who backed it the first time to go to the second edition. It's another opportunity to jump in on this campaign that I think some people missed out on and kind of regret, because I think this is a really well done 4X game that plays in about an hour. And in addition to that, this also has a new Alien expansion pack. Whether you missed it the first time or whether you did get it the first time and you just want the updated stuff and the new expansion content, this is definitely one to go check out.
And so this is one that you brought just for me. Thanks.
Yeah.
Jerk.
Yes. You're welcome, Nathan.
I guess that's a good thing I only need the upgrades and the Alien Frontier expansion or the Alien expansion pack.
Yeah. No, you'll just need the upgrades and you'll be fine. You've already got the majority of this, and you'd feel bad if you missed out on it anyway. So
thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
My wallet doesn't thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, your wallet never will. I don't think. Okay. And then last but not least, I will just throw out a couple things on Kickstarter. All of these are going to be late pledge items. They've already run or are wrapping up running their campaigns, but there will certainly be opportunities to late pledge on them. I was just going to mention, first of all, Deceased, which I'm really excited about because this is finally the version of Zombicide that I can be really excited about. This is all of the DC characters implemented into Zombicide, much like they did with the Marvel Zombicide series, only it's DC, so it'll be better because it'll have Batman. So take that.
Take that, Marvel.
Take that, Marvel. And then another one I was just going to mention is Spiritfire. This is one that is so unique.
Looks really cool.
In its approach to game design, in its art style, and everything else. I do not have time to sit and go over this in a lot of detail, but basically, this is a living board game. So you are going to have, it's going to have everything that kind of comes, that needs to be unlocked with, at least for the first, wave of content. It'll all come with everything ready to go. But basically, it's a non-combat sort of exploration, not really dungeon crawl, but kind of dungeon crawl style game where essentially your character is the story of the game. How you develop and progress as a person is the game. Right. And conceptually, that's kind of a hard thing to sort of convey. I would really recommend, if this is something that sounds interesting to you, to go check this out. This is by Orange Nebula. So they are known for producing some pretty outstanding game quality stuff. The art on this looks amazing.
It is amazing.
And as you play, you're going to have all these packs that you can unlock depending on the choices that you make that will evolve you as a character in the game. It also has a really cool feature where you can play this solo. You can kind of explore and play on your own. And then you can add people if you want to play together to go and explore these different spaces. Yes. And so I really like this sort of free flowing kind of thing that they're doing. We'll see if it's implemented well. And it makes me a little nervous that they're calling it a living board game, because anything that says living before it sort of implies to me that there will be more content that I need to fork over money for in the future.
Well, I do like the partner pledge and the trio pledge. The description is the pledge tier for 2 players who want to undertake their solo journeys alongside each other. So you're both going to just play your solo games together?
Yeah, it's kind of weird that way, right?
I have a big question mark, but I'm very much intrigued.
Right. And watching some of the videos on this, it looks like you can kind of pick and choose how kind of integrated or how much you want the game to you want somebody else's game to affect yours and what you're doing and exploring and kind of going through. So conceptually really, really interesting, but we'll see if the execution can match up. This is one that I have backed. I'm excited to get it and play it, but I'm cautiously optimistic about what the promise is, because they're promising some really big stuff with Spiritfire.
It looks really cool.
It does look cool. The art on it is really fantastic, actually. The final one that I will mention really quick. I am a huge Final Girl fan. I am not a big solo only game fan. There's only a couple of them that I play. I really like Final Girl, but they have Final Girl Series 3. And that's one that if you like Final Girl and you missed out on that, go check out the late pledge for that. Definitely one worth checking out. And Nathan purchased everything and then realized it was solo only, and so he sold it all.
Yes, before giving it a shot. Which
I really wish you had, because I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, probably should have, but I didn't.
It's more fun to play with other people anyway.
That's the big reason I play games.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
All right, well, that wraps up a heavy dose of news and email response and joyous game talking.
Until next time,
we'll see you at the game table.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of Werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_nation. Or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.